and welcome to Better Business Podcast. My name is Alexei, and I'm your host. And today we've got Julie Parker with us. How you going there, Julie?
I'm going super. Thanks so much, Alexei.
Great to have you on our podcast, Julie. Look, you and I have obviously been collaborating a few times. We did a webinar early in the year, and for those of you listening, Julie used to be a dentist, a dental practice owner to be specific, and then transitioned over time into coaching. I understand her business is still in transition. There's many moving parts there, but Julie has got the specialty of understanding not just the business itself, but how to actually help other businesses in the similar realm. I'm not going to steal this from you, Julie. Tell us about your story as to where you started, how you transitioned, because I'm sure a lot of people are dreaming to own a dental practice, and I'm sure there's many pros and cons. But over to you. Tell us more about it. Tell us about your story.
Thanks, Alexei. Well, I'm from Melbourne, Australia, and when I was 17, I was booted out of high school because I wasn't turning up. I wasn't loving the whole place, and went straight into dental assisting as a trainee because that was one of the few professions you could just step into without any kind of training. The other one was hairdressing, so I chose dental assisting instead. Thought I'd enjoy it more, and I did. I enjoyed it immensely. The minute I got into it, of course, then I was very hungry to learn more about it and go through the course and get my certificate 3, all the things, and continued working, going through all the various roles within a dental practice, such as receptionist and patient coordinator, facilitator, practice manager. And then when I was 33, I decided, what if I owned my own dental practice? And I didn't realize at the time that it wasn't allowed for a long, long period of time. And I just happened to live in this state of Victoria, the one state in Australia where you could own your own dental practice without being a dentist. And so I went down that path, and I was very focused. I got very into NLP at that point, neuro-linguistic programming at that point. And so I was visioning and doing all the things. And from 6 months from when I decided I'm going to go ahead and buy my own dental practice, 6 months later, I was standing in the waiting room of my practice thinking, what the hell just happened? I don't know what to do with this now. Because, of course, I had no business management expertise at all. I had a great father who was going to be a source of advice for me, and he was a very moral, professional man, so I was learning from the best. But I really kind of did throw myself in the deep end, and I think that that is the best way to go sometimes, because if I'd known the challenges I'd be up against, it's highly likely I would never have gone down that path in the first place. But once you are going down the path, you realize you don't have all the problems land on your lap at once. You have one at a time, and you get through one at a time. And as long as you kind of take care of your mindset and make sure you are methodical in getting the bits and pieces done without putting everything on the back burner, then you do just achieve that goal of whatever you're doing. And it was interesting. There's a analogy that I love, a little story that I love to tell, which kind of plays a role in this part of the story. And when I was doing some research, I don't know if you've come across this saying as well, that we overestimate what we can get done in 1 year and we underestimate what we can get done in 10 years. Have you heard that before, Alexei?
I think I might have heard the concept, but it's interesting to hear it, obviously, from a former practice owner. So we're keen to hear more about it.
Well, whenever I had read that, I'm thinking, no, that's not true. Because if anybody asked me, where are you going to be in 10 years? I'm going to say things like, I'm going to be living in a mansion. I'm going to have the best friends of all time. I'm going to be a squillionaire. Like, I'll be the best version of myself because I've got 10 years to do that in. But so I never actually quite got that. And so I was writing a blog about it because I was really intrigued about it, doing some research, came across an article that some guy wrote, and I wish I'd remembered write his name down because I speak about this story all the time. But he referred to an online game called Osmos. And in this online game, you are like a cell or an atom, and you're moving around a medium, coming across other cells and atoms. And if those other cells and atoms are smaller than you, then you bump into it, you overcome it, and it makes you a little bit bigger. However, if you bump into an atom that is larger than you, it swallows you up, and that's the end of your game. And in this article, it described those things that you come across as the challenges and the problems that you bump into. And if you are going to bump into one that is beyond your capabilities, it will swallow you up. But the goal is to continue taking on the smaller challenges and overcoming them, because that's what makes you stronger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And then at some point in the game, you are going to have grown so much that you are now going to come across that previously huge atom, and actually you're even bigger than it. You bump into it, you overcome it. And I think that really paints a wonderful picture of that's why we can't even begin to imagine what we're capable of in 10 years' time, because we will be a different version of ourselves. We're going to have hopefully 10 years of learning, books, podcasts, conversations, insights, strategies, all these things that are going to make us capable of extraordinary things that we couldn't even dream about right now. So it's a wonderful story, isn't it? So I think that if there are anybody out there that is thinking about owning their own business and thinking, gosh, the mountain seems so big, the challenges just seem beyond me, don't worry so much about that, because you'll be growing and evolving within that space. And by the time you need that strength, that insight, that wisdom to be able to tackle one of those future problems, you'll have it by then. And so I love that concept of that we underestimate where we're going to be in 10 years' time, because now it just makes life so much more exciting, because it's outside of my realm of possibility, hopefully bigger and beyond that.
Okay, well, that's awesome. And look, I think the whole idea about the 10-year period, there's also this principle of the Parkinson law that always gets applied. If you give yourself 10 years to do something, chances are you're probably going to start getting into gear as well. But there's obviously many ways to look into something like that. The whole idea of time versus outcome has sort of changed quite significantly for me after the whole COVID thing, because traditionally when you work with a coach, normally a coach will say, hey, let's set some goals. Where do you see yourself in 3 months, 6 time, 1 year, 3 years, and so on. And that was all good and well. I understand the methodology, and I think it's actually quite effective. But all these external factors like COVID, for example, has completely destroyed that process, at least in my mind, to be able to understand that sort of 3-year and beyond perspective. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's true. It's really put a dent in people's side. It was something that was completely out of left field. Nobody could possibly have planned for it, but also the government reaction around it, with all the lockdowns and fracture of working teams, etc., and not being able to function. I mean, I think back to all those poor restaurants and everything like that. It was just so traumatic for them, especially down here in Victoria, where they'd already staffed themselves up, got all their food in within hours. They're told, nah, you're going to have to throw everything away and tell all your staff to get nicked as well. So it was a troubling time. But it really does highlight, and this is also really important for business owners, it highlights the need and the benefit of having clearly defined values and a clearly defined purpose, because it's when we're just down the nuts and bolts of the everyday operation that an interruption like that can really throw us off kilter, because we haven't planned for something like that. But when we've got these broader values, these broader philosophies on the way we're going to manage ourselves as a human being in this world, the way we're going to be managing our businesses because it impacts our clients and our team members, the way that we are positioning ourselves in our communities as well, that requires far higher level thinking. And that's, I think, where you come from when you're looking at the opportunities that can be derived from these sort of upsetting times.
Absolutely. And look, we'll talk about the time of the year a little bit further in our podcast, because that's one of the things I think you've made a pretty good point about just in the conversation prior to this. But tell us about the transition then from being a practice owner into a business coach. I mean, it seems to be quite a journey. I mean, what's made you sort of go down that path?
Kind of going with the flow of life a little bit. So I owned the practice for 10 years, loved every second of it, really did enjoy all this. I got to the point, I can't actually remember in this mindset right now, I can't remember ever being upset or troubled by anything during my practice ownership days, but I'm sure there were many occasions that I was, but I just learned that a better way of dealing with all of those elements of business ownership is to embrace them and go, you beauty, another challenge, fantastic. Like my husband says, I've remarried. I had a marriage, then divorced, then married again. And my second husband, Charles, whenever anybody presents any kind of problem to him, he's got exactly the same response every time. Great. Instant acceptance, because what happens after acceptance, we can go ahead and start working out a plan and getting around it. And so I tend to have that philosophy. And indeed, the first marriage, the breakdown of that first marriage, I hate saying breakdown because it sounds like it failed. We were together for 20 years, and so it was a working relationship for 20 years. And when we divorced, that's when I sold the practice after 10 years of ownership. And then I met Charles, and he was already a business consultant. He'd been a lawyer for years. He'd been a coach and consultant ever since then, and professional speaker, Australasia's passion provocateur. And that's where I thought, oh, I think that is my next step. All the stuff that I've learned within my dental practice, both ownership but the journey before that as well, I want to convert that into a consulting business, which was so wildly different from a dental practice. It was crazy.
Yeah. Well, it's quite interesting. You mentioned, obviously your personal life and business. I find quite a lot. Business is a reflection of your personal beliefs and, the way you live your life. I mean, in a good way, in a bad way, whichever way you want. But I find that, business often reflects on what the person does or what the person doesn't do. And it's quite interesting. I work with quite a few different businesses, and everyone's obviously got their own story, but you can see the patterns as to where the weaknesses are and what it typically aligns with. And I think a lot of the time, we just want to change. We want to start something fresh, but we also see exactly, the knowledge that we gain in order to go to another venture with something that's far more superior. I mean, I run a number of different businesses, and for me, the first one took forever, and it took a lot of, stress and time and money. And when I started my second and third business, things just started getting faster and better, and I could see how I could elevate myself as a specialist in those new fields as well. So yeah, I can totally relate to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think, one of the topics that we spoke about is obviously seasonality, and specifically this type of year. It's December right now. You definitely work with quite a few practices. I mean, for a lot of people, they're ready to sort of close for their Christmas break, however long that is. Obviously, the business owner determines themselves. But what should practices be doing at this time of the year? Have you got a bit of a pattern or a bit of a solution or a recipe for businesses as to what they should be doing this time of year?
I have always thought that this time of year is a fabulously exciting time of the year. And I recall back when I was an employee of a dental practice, this was the time of year to have a holiday and a relax and lay around the couch a little bit, go down to the beach, all those sort of things. But when I became a business owner, you are so much kind of in the weeds every day and the operational stuff every day. The minute you've got the opportunity to have downtime where there's far fewer expectations upon your time and your energy, all of a sudden you can start seeing, oh, this is a time I can reflect. This is a time I can start to dream. Am I aligned with my values moving forward? What are my goals going to be for next year? And I really did find the December, January period something that was absolutely re-energizing and re-clarifying the path forward. I mean, at the start of 2023, I'm sure most of your market out there, most of your listeners out there had some kind of goal. 2023, I'm going to be doing this, or I'm going to have this turnover, or grow my team to a certain size, really revolutionize the way we are providing customer service. There'll be something there. It could have even been more work-life balance, more time off. And now's the time to remind yourself what those goals are, because quite often we identify the goals in January, we don't look at them again, ever. And so reflect over the year. How has the year gone? Did we meet the goals? And from a personal perspective, really have a look and an honest look at what's been the past year. What actions did I take that really did help me this past year be more productive, more efficient, more stress-free? And what habits or behaviors, actions did I take on a routine basis last year that really didn't help me along? It kind of I sabotaged myself along the way. And then when we're looking forward to the coming year, take that analogy story around Osmos into consideration. Don't just have the same goals for the coming year, because the person you are going to be in January 2024 is one whole year more evolved than the one from January 2023. And as you say, with things like COVID, that really shifts us in terms of what's important to us, what we want to include in our life, the way we want to structure our business. And so it's such a energizing but important thing to do, to take that time away, even if it's a couple of days, if it's a week. It doesn't actually matter how much. It doesn't have to be one whole month that you have downtime so you can do all these things. Just start turning your mind to it. And so when you have the 1 or 2 days or the week off, you can just sit there and start to collate your thoughts, really try to plan for the coming year. So it is going to be from a spiritual, physical, mental, business, family, friendship, self perspective, a fulfilling one.
Yeah. Well, look, I think you're definitely right about it. Obviously, the time allows for things to sort of quieten down a little, and you're right. A lot of people set goals; they don't really review them often enough until it's the end of the year. We typically find it's 2 times of the year that these things occur. Obviously, depending on the business, either it's this Christmas period or end of year, or end of financial year, depending obviously on who you talk to. I think the accountants and people in finance obviously seem to stick to the financial year. I find that the whole goal setting process, a lot of people are exposed to it, but most people don't work with a coach. They sort of do things by themselves. And it's sort of a process that people understand better over time. I think the whole goal setting is really more about clarity as opposed to the goals themselves. Hey, I want to basically do better this year than I did last year. What does that mean? Well, I want to get more customers. Okay, when I want to get something else more. And typically people say more or less. And then when a year lapses, I would highly recommend business owners to potentially look into, well, you've got more clients or you got more revenue. Obviously, if you wanted to do something, you obviously invested in some activities, but did you actually set KPIs and numbers to track yourself along the way? Because getting more revenue obviously is not very difficult, but does that equate to the profit at the end of the equation? And oftentimes that's not really the case. Getting more clients is not a difficult problem to resolve. However, are they the right sort of customers to work with? Have you had more headaches and potentially more staff issues as a result of it getting more clients on board? So, yeah, I think it's a really good point, and it's definitely a time to review a lot of things. And there's probably something magical about the start and the finish of the year, right? People basically want to start a year fresh, but if you look at the time as a linear thing, December is not really different from January. January is not different from February and so on. But the way people react, the way people present this month to themselves can be quite different as well. So yeah, I think that's a great tip. So in terms of working with practices, I mean, there's surely got to be some common factors or problems that you're dealing with on day-to-day basis. Can you just tell us a little bit more about the things that you help practice owners resolve?
Absolutely. So one of the challenges is getting the time available for team training. Everyone understands and agrees, yes, my team would benefit, my business would benefit when I start to provide training opportunities for them. Are you providing any? No. So it's such a one of those situations where when you are again down in the weeds, you can't see the moments that you can grab to be able to get team training happening. There's so many challenges around it. When are we going to get the whole team together? And in a dental practice situation, often it's in the case of many businesses where if I get all my team away from their jobs to do this training, we're losing money over in the original space. And so that's an added cost. We're not only paying for the team training itself, but we're paying the cost of the training in terms of downtime and productivity. And there is also can be the challenges around, I provide team training in the past, but my team members just aren't engaged and then nothing changes anyway. And it kind of comes back to that goal challenge that we've got that you were talking about. Yeah, we set goals and sometimes we make a plan, but we're still not making ourselves accountable on a routine enough basis to be successful. And for example, if you identify a goal for yourself, there'll be a 10% chance that you achieve that goal. And then if you add in, and I'm going to make it really specific, you increase that percentage. Now I'm going to tell somebody else about that goal. It increases your percentage of chances of achieving that goal. Now I'm going to add a support network of accountability on a regular basis. And so I've got somebody that I meet with every month, and you can do this within your team meetings, meet with somebody every single month to make sure that we're on track consistently to achieve that goal. Your chances of achieving your goal boost right up to 95%. So why wouldn't you do it? But we need that support. Part of that support network that we are putting in place for teams is to make sure that all the team members are on board, they're trained to an adequate level, they're all growing together, and they are all being accountable on a regular basis to make sure that they are on a constant and never-ending improvement journey. And then the success that the dental practice achieves is a result of all of that hard work in between times. Most of the times, you say to somebody who is running a business, if you were to get a consultant in, what would be one of the biggest things that you'd like to achieve? And they say increased turnover. But really the increase of turnover, that can be solved in a heartbeat. Just increase your prices and you've increased your turnover. But outside of that, the increased turnover ends up just being the outcome after a whole bunch of other elements are being implemented. We're going to increase the level of customer service. We're going to improve the skill level of all the team members. We're going to start hiring more effectively, because that's certainly one of the other challenges too, is, and I don't know if other industries have been suffering from this, but over the COVID period, the Australian dental practices, I think it's Australia-wide, it's at the very least Victoria-wide, auxiliary team members such as dental assistants and receptionists, we lost 31% of our staff base over the last 3 years. And so now people are hiring any warm body at all. But the problem is that they're just fulfilling the role, and because they're not aligned with your practice values, because they don't have necessarily all of the other skills and qualities that make them a really functional team member in a business that relies on each other to be able to deliver this great service, then the standard is constantly being eroded away. And then a year later, you find yourself going, man, I'm so deep in this hole, I don't even know how to get out of it. And so making sure that you are finding ways, and we always help practices find ways of providing that team training, of taking the time and hiring well, those sort of challenges, just getting them out of their own busy head and think of the bigger picture and start taking actions toward the bigger picture rather than just surviving tomorrow. That's something that we do help practices with a lot.
Mm. Well, look, there's certainly a lot of problems, and I think naturally business owners tend to sort of focus on things that they understand, right? So obviously, cash flow wise, it's important to understand the numbers. And if I look at this from a neutral standpoint, you'll find that there is a business owner who wants to get higher revenue, and then there is obviously marketing of some sort that basically gets them the customers. And if you look at the process black and white, if you don't have enough revenue, you basically be blaming your marketing for the whole thing. However, right in the middle of the process, there's the entire team. So I think you're spot on, because for a dental practice of obviously more than 2 chairs, the team plays the most important role of actually being able to attract those customers. I mean, we got to assume that the service here is good by default, because it can't be bad, right? So if you look at everything else, it's actually the team. And I talk to quite a few business owners. A lot of the time they're like, oh, we're just going to do something about our marketing. And we're going to do something about our website, but it's like, well, what about your sales process? What about your retention process? What about your customer support? What about your customer service? And people don't seem to align that with the actual revenue. So I think you're right. I think the team is really quite crucial, especially for dental practices. So when it comes to team members, in your opinion, hygienists, receptionists, anyone else in there, what are the things that you'd be focusing on to increase their performance or help them in terms of their development?
Really implementing a value of growth within the culture of that dental practice. And this is fantastic for any business whatsoever. When you have not just adopt the value of growth, but put systems in place so you are living the value of growth within your business. What that is, and I lend Tony Robbins' term, that CAN-I principle, constant and never-ending improvement. When you adopt something like that within your business, it will then have a knock-on effect to the way you hire. You won't be hiring people who are not interested in growth and development. And you think about because if you said to anybody, are you interested in growth and development? Yeah, of course. I'm interested in getting better. Are you interested in receiving feedback about your performance? Oh, I don't know about that. Are you interested in feeling incompetent in the early stages of learning something new? Oh, no, I don't like that at all. Are you interested in change? No, I hate change. How about making mistakes? How do you feel about making mistakes? I hate making mistakes. I'm a bit of a perfectionist. So when you start to step through all of the necessary elements that go into achieving growth, it's a different story. So people who were saying, yeah, I'm all interested in growth, now they're saying, nah, it feels pretty uncomfortable, I don't want to be part of it. And so within all of your recruitment, make sure that you are detailing very clearly that you've got the value of growth and what that actually means, and how you as a company support the growth of the individual. So you can't have a negative aspect of the management style on mistakes. You have to allow mistakes. You have to allow people to practice and repeat things to get better and become masters at the things. You've got to provide opportunities for growth. But what you get when you do all of that, you've got a bunch of team members who are absolutely dynamic. They're coming up with great ideas all the time. They don't have to motivate themselves every morning to come into work and have delivered this high level of customer service. That's just part of who they are. They like being great. And they love what it takes to improve because they know that going through the discomfort of incompetence and feedback and mistakes, they've got different meaning attached to those elements. Now, those elements aren't negative. They are a sign that I am growing. And so therefore they embrace that and they don't resist the growth journey. And so that's one of my most important things that I can share with any business owner out there. Have a very good think about the value of growth, what it means in terms of actions and behaviors within your organization, and then just start doing it. Have it impact your systems, your team management, your recruitment, and it will all then naturally flow on and deliver a stronger patient experience in terms of dental practices. But that customer experience, if you make that customer experience your focus for the year 2024, you will by default achieve greater levels of every other thing that you desire by the end of the year as well.
Mm. Yeah, well, there's lots of process, and I've actually taken some notes as you were speaking. So, okay, I'll come back to you with a couple more things. But let's talk about the common mistakes. I mean, when it comes to dental practices in particular, what sort of common mistakes are you sort of seeing, and what should business owners do about that?
Yeah. One of the other things is just a lack of systems. And so they haven't got clearly defined systems or well considered systems. And so, again, as you get new people coming in, they do things a little bit differently. You don't put them through a proper training program so they know exactly how to do things in your particular location. And over time, or from the start, the systems just aren't being rolled out in a systematic way by all of the people involved. And so as a result, a patient experience is different from a Monday to a Tuesday, from 9 o'clock in the morning to 5 o'clock in the evening, from that surgery to the other surgery. It's a different experience. And so part of what builds that trust level up with patients and with your customers is to give that consistent delivery of service, not have it be haphazard. And so to become really systemized, make it as, it's one of those problems that can seem so overwhelming and big that you never even try to tackle it. But what's that saying? How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. So have it as a 2024 year-long process, break it down into 12 sub-goals and then into even weekly goals thereafter, and make sure you're getting regular progress reports. We're going to be focusing on one system every week or month and really refining it, getting it good, documenting it. Now the next system, get all the team involved in it because they're the ones rolling out the systems. You don't know what challenges they may have with rolling them out until you ask them and get them involved in it, and make it a real team effort moving forward. Another mistake I often see, which is what you kind of alluding to before, Alexei, and that is to be more successful, I just need more new patients. And there are some practice owners that will say to me quite proudly, we have got 2 surgeries and we get 80 new patients a month, thinking that I'll be impressed by that. And it's an impressive number of leads to come through and convert through, definitely. However, how well can you be managing 80 new patients a month? And as you said before, are those 80 new patients the ones that are going to be long-term returning clients within your organization? It costs far less money to maintain your current client base and to convert loyal clients from other businesses into yours, rather than constantly be on this drive for more and more new patients all the time. I can't imagine a practice that needs to sustain 80 new patients a month. It's a big deal. It's a lot for the team members to try to manage. Those appointment times are usually longer and more involved as well. And so recognizing that your particular practice, you're going to have your regular long-term loyal clients that come every 6 months if it's in a dental surgery situation, but they're returning clients. And they're the ones that over the lifetime that they spend with your business are so highly valuable. You've got to start seeing the value of them. And so from a dental practice situation, you can have one new patient that visits once for an emergency because you're just on that drive for new patients. And so we see all the emergencies. They may spend $250 once with you over their whole lifetime with you, as opposed to a new patient that comes in and they have already been loyal somewhere else. Now they're going to be loyal with you. They're going to spend at least 15 years with you. They're going to come every 6 months for their general checkups and cleans. And every dental dollar they spend on things that are elective and things that are required to solve disease, they're going to come to you and spend it with you. And our figures that we've done surveys with all of our dental teams that we work with, the value of that particular patient, who's also referring like-minded people, is $174,000, a little bit different from $250. And so recognize that the type of patient you attract into your practice, into your business through all of your social media, online marketing, direct promotional efforts, etc., is going to be of a certain type. So you most well strive to get the ones that are going to keep returning over and over again. And in order to do that, you're going to have to then concentrate on perfecting and constantly improving that customer experience.
Yeah, I think that's a great advice, and thanks for sharing, because I think a lot of the time people don't look at the actual problem like that. I mean, I personally see with lots of practices, one a very common pattern where they'd lose a customer purely the customer would be going to another practice for a completely different service, not realizing that the practice that they've been engaged with all this time actually provides that. Simple example, it could be like teeth whitening, for example. Someone goes and then that becomes an entry point to another business, and they like the experience, and the customer is lost. But it's like, well, you offer teeth whitening. Why is it that the client's actually never educated about this thing? And I think this is where simple things like email marketing or social media can really come in to focus on the existing customers, because there's always this race about, I want to get new clients. I want to get new clients. I mean, if you're going to talk to any business coaches, they'll typically tell you should probably have lesser clients, but the ones that pay you more money and that would absolutely love what you do. Why would you want to keep chasing new customers? And I'd probably steer a little bit more towards that when it comes to a practice. I mean, wouldn't you love to have clients that you choose that would pay you the money that you deserve and make you feel completely awesome?
That's it. And it is a challenging thing. How many new patients should we have? I mean, we always have to look after the natural attrition of our patient base, our customer base, because people die, they move out of the area, their situation changes. And so we certainly need a flow of them. But I think it is such a worthy effort because it's more difficult. It's easy to get a new patient if you're offering the cheapest price and an emergency service and all the things. It's easy to get somebody. But to get somebody who's already loyal somewhere else, how do you make that person aware of what you do? And how do you have them go, I think I'm going to give that place a try? We're either waiting for the other location for them to become dissatisfied because things change for whatever reason, and that happens all the time. There's changeover of dentists and ownership, adjusting hours, maybe their prices went up, maybe all these other reasons as to why all of a sudden they might become dissatisfied. But what if they moved over just because you presented yourself as so impressive that they want to give you a try? And it is a more difficult journey in marketing, and you have to utilize all of the online features for that, because they're not on your email list, because they're not always just driving right over at the front of your business and therefore magically know what you offer on the inside. We're solely relying on digital advertising to get in front of those people's faces when they're not seeking a new dentist. And what are we going to say? What are we going to promise them? What are we going to assure them of in terms of their experience that's going to convert them over? That's more challenging, but I swear to you that will be so much more sustaining for a dental practice.
Yeah, I think sustainable is probably the magic word that everybody wants. Great. Now, your business is called Dental Business Mastery. And I understand you obviously run some events to help practice owners sort of understand exactly where you can help and draw their attention to certain parts of the business where potentially improvements required. Can you just tell us a little bit more about Dental Business Mastery and those events?
Sure thing.
How often they're happening, if you got another one coming up soon?
Sure thing. So Dental Business Mastery has been around for about 5 years, and it's the collaboration of myself and another dental practice management consultant, Amina Basile, of dental management expertise. And we've done a few clients over the years together, and we've really enjoyed it. And things have got more and more involved with each other, and we've maintained a very happy, productive working relationship. And so this past year, 2023, was the year we said, okay, that's it, we're combining everything. And so we've still got our own existing clients that we have ongoing over the years with our own separate businesses, but any new clients we take on is going to be under Dental Business Mastery. We offer the standard consulting programs like we always did as separate entities, but on top of that, we offer online training and courses. So one of our our flagship course was the Dental Practice Management course, a 1-year course, all online, fully live and supported all the way through. That's been hugely successful. We've since added a Dental Reception Mastery course, a New Grad Mastery course, and specifically for this time of year, we've got 3 products. I've always done this Goals Achievement Workshop every year. Now we're doing it together. That's coming up on the 17th of December on a Sunday. 3 hours of just working on stuff and making sure your year 2024 is going to be huge. We've also got the annual growth plan, and again, a perfect time of the year to establish for your unique practice, your unique dental practice with your unique practitioners, with your unique team, identifying appropriate goals using your dental practice software data, and then creating a strategy and plan to achieve those goals, and then accountability all the way through, because we want to get to that 95% success rate of goal achievement. And then the third element that we offer is the whiteboard sessions. This is something new. I did a whiteboard session with a marketing guy a couple of years ago, and he just spent 2 hours with me on my business, going through a bunch of strategies and just brain dumping on me about what his thoughts were about my business. I found it absolutely crucial. It was so impactful. Sometimes you don't want to take on something like a consulting program over weeks and months down the track. This was ideal for me because I wasn't in a position to take on a marketing person for a long term, but those 2 hours, that delivered me so much information. It was fantastic. So we're implementing that ourselves with our dental practice clients. And so a 2-hour whiteboard strategy, again, at this time of the year, just to make sure the challenges that you faced in 2023, you're not facing again in 2024. That the goals you didn't achieve last year, you're going to be redefining them and achieving them in 2024. And you get both Amina and my expertise, insights, knowledge, and we just brain dump all over you. It's fantastic.
Cool. And if somebody wants to get in touch with you, what's the best way to approach you?
Go to our website, dentalbusinessmastery.com.au. All of our information and our offerings are there, and you can just email at info@dentalbusinessmastery.com.au.
Cool. All right. Well, look, we've covered a lot of things, and I'm sure there's plenty more to talk about. Normally, I'd finish my podcast at about this point, but I decided to make things a little bit more fun and social. So I've introduced this section called Rapid Fire. So this is where I ask you, random questions, difficult, simple, and you give us a pretty short answer. Are you ready?
I'm all ready.
All right. Well, given that you're from Melbourne, what do you reckon, summer or winter? What's better?
Summer.
I think it's all the same in Melbourne, but anyway. Best personal development book, in your opinion?
Passionate People Produced by Charles Kovess. Amazing.
Okay. Got to check it out. All right. And if you weren't doing what you're doing right now, what would you be doing?
Oh, I would love to think I was still in some sort of improvement space, helping myself and others to improve. So I actually listened to a podcast yesterday and I thought, gee, that'd be a good job. I reckon I'd be an NLP hypnotist.
Wow. Well, that's quite a change. Well, anyway, guys, if you want to find out more about Julie Parker, make sure you jump on her website. This has been an absolute pleasure. If you enjoy our podcast, please make sure you don't forget to subscribe and refer your friends or potentially share it with somebody who runs a practice, dental practice, or another kind of a practice that may potentially benefit from some of this advice. Julie, thanks very much. And I look forward to speaking to you soon.
Thank you, Alexei. I had a lot of fun.
Thanks.